Okay, guys, it's just Paul here from bootcampking.com. I am sitting here in Spain where it's absolutely, for want of a better word, pissing down. And I am very excited because we have Dr. Jade Teta, I think I'm saying that right, from Metabolic Effect. Dr. Jade, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing good, Paul. And
Cool.
actually, we pronounce it Teta because Teta, we know in Spanish,
Oh.
it's not the best
I didn't think about that there, yes.
Especially if you're in Spain.
Yes, I didn't think about that, so Teta. That sounds cooler anyway, right? Like Tita Ortiz,
Exactly.
etc.
I get a lot of laughing at me for that last name.
Okay, so first of all, thank you for coming on. I am super excited to grill you. Like I said before we got on the call, we're going to keep it around trainers getting results for their clients, but I also really want to grill you on some of the business stuff and how you've exploded this mutant that is now seemingly right across the world. So first of all, without boring the guys to death, can you tell me a little bit about, for those guys that don't know, sort of how you got into this whole health and fitness thing, this whole fat loss thing, and sort of how it's evolved to where it is right now?
Yeah. And first of all, Paul, thanks so much, man. I mean, your reputation precedes you, so thanks so much.
Oh, thanks, man, but that's not always a good thing.
In my world, it's a good thing.
Oh, thank you very much, my friend.
Thank you for having me on. But you know, I mean, for the people on the line and listening to this, I mean, I started out like probably most people. I mean, I started personal training when I was 15 years old, writing programs when I was in high school for, you know, my friends, the football players, and even their family members, their mothers and fathers and things like that. Just fell in love with it.
Yeah.
And so I've been personal training ever since that, you know, when I was in high school. And, you know, really did the things that most of us personal trainers did. You know, if you guys remember back in the 80s, at least here in the United States, it was all about, you know, staying away from high-fat foods and going low-fat.
Yeah.
And in the 90s and 2000s, it was all about, you know, low carbohydrate. Now it seems like we're kind of moving into this, you know, low-protein era people are talking about. And so I tried and did everything and experimented and was into bodybuilding myself in my younger days.
Yeah.
Just fell in love with it, man. And then I decided, hey, I want to make a career out of it. So I was a biochemistry major in undergrad. And so after I finished that, I started realizing that, you know, weight loss and fat loss and body change and all the things that we do as personal trainers is about more than just calories. There's something else going on. Of course, biochemistry gets you into this whole thing about hormones and how those work and how that interacts with what we eat.
Yeah.
And then I decided to go to medical school, but I don't know what it's like for you know, individuals over there in Spain and the UK. But here in the United States, the curriculum for medical schools is, you know, they get zero training in nutrition and zero training in exercise.
Wow.
And so I started looking around right away for a different type of medical program. I found one of the schools called Bastyr University that trains general practitioners, primary care physicians in alternative and lifestyle medicine. So I actually went to a medical program that teaches exercise and diet are the first line of defense, and my education was steeped in that stuff.
Wow, and that's where it all should start anyway, right?
It really is where it all should start. And for those of you on the line, we actually know this. You know this, Paul. I know this. Everyone listening, trainers know this. But of course, doctors don't. And I didn't want to be sort of pushing drugs and surgery. I see those are the alternatives. I still use those things, but they're the alternatives to diet.
They're almost the last resort, right?
They are the last resort.
Yeah.
And lifestyle medicine works big time. So that brings me to where we are now. I started a health and fitness company called Metabolic Effect, wrote a book, and, you know, really just my passion is getting the information out there to people.
Nice. Okay. So I want to come back to Metabolic Effect later on when we get more into the business stuff, because that's where my passion is starting to go towards that, because I'm fed up of seeing good fitness people not even making a living in this industry, which is insane. In the UK, the average income for a personal trainer or a fitness professional is around about £15,000, which is the same as what you get paid in McDonald's. So it is slightly insane. So let's get back to results again, because I love the content that you guys put out is really congruent with what I practiced when I was more of a personal trainer, when I ran more boot camps, etc. Now I'm more the business side of things. But what would you say the top, I mean, I'm not even going to put a number on it. What would you say the mistakes that trainers are making when it comes to getting clients results?
Yeah, I mean, I think I think the major thing, and this speaks to sort of the business and sort of having your, ultimate sales proposition. I
Yeah,
think the biggest mistakes is that we as trainers
yeah,
don't realize that the number one thing that's going to get people results is probably going to be how they eat and what they do outside of working out with us. And
yeah,
so what ends up happening is we go into this thinking, hey, we're just going to deliver workouts, and
yeah,
that's our expertise.
yeah,
And we forget that, hey, they're with us 1, 2, 3 times, maybe even 5 times a week. But if
yeah,
they're out there eating and not sleeping right and under stress and all these things,
yeah,
there's not much we can do about that.
yeah,
So for me, from a business point of view and a results point of view, I'm always looking at how can I intervene
yeah.
in their other lifestyle habits. In other words,
Nice.
yes, we train them and we
Yeah,
should be doing that,
yeah,
and that's a money-making potential for us.
yeah.
But to get them results, we need to find ways to intervene in what they're eating, how they're living, how they're sleeping, how they interact with stress, their
Tremendous.
communities. And not
Tremendous.
only is that going to get them better results, but it gives us a lot more opportunities to make money.
Nice. And you know what? That I love the way you blended that together, because that's what I'm all about. And I say this all the time. Trainers know that nutrition makes up most of a client's results, yet we sell training. I don't really get that. So what are some of the things that you do and you guys as a company do to take care of the client outside of those sessions? What are some of the things that you're using, and some of the strategies you're using to say, okay, this session is great, but what are you doing outside of this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I'll give you a couple things that we do. One that is more simple for people who aren't as tech savvy and internet based,
Yeah,
and that is simply producing and generating programs. And
yeah,
so you alluded to it with boot camps and things like that. I mean,
yeah,
bottom line, these things we think about. Let's do a boot camp that is just about working out.
yeah,
But what about doing a boot camp that is about changing eating habits,
yeah,
dealing with stress,
yeah,
and dealing with these things as well? So what we did very early on is we created programs that were essentially a boot camp where we had people come and do trainings,
yeah.
but we also did group meetings about stress reduction and
Bam.
group
Yeah,
meetings about diet and
yeah,
all those kinds of things. And we sold that as a program package
yeah,
so that people stopped seeing us just as the people delivering their workouts,
yeah.
but started seeing us as the people that we go to for everything related to health, fitness, and fat loss.
Nice.
The
Nice.
other piece of that, and I think the most powerful piece, and I know you're into some of this stuff as well,
Uh-huh.
but the most powerful thing we've been able to do is take our services,
Yeah,
and not just our training services, but our nutrition services and our mindset and psychology and behavior services online into online member programs.
yeah,
So you can imagine the first example I gave you, that means you're local. You're doing programs locally. You're
yeah,
training locally. You're doing group programs locally and things like that.
yeah,
However, if you take now those same programs you built locally and in person and put them into online informational modules,
yeah,
websites that people go and log into,
yeah.
membership sites that they can go and interact with you and interact with other people, now you've expanded your business and your results far beyond you. And so those are the two things that we've been able to do. First is understanding nutrition, lifestyle, behavior, the
Yep.
psychology of change needs to be integrated with the training we do.
Yeah.
And we need to build those programs and charge for those programs. We can do that locally or we can do that online.
Fantastic. And what I love about that model is, and I spoke about this at an event that I taught the other week, is that when trainers are looking to grow a business, the first thing that they look to do, which is insane, in my opinion, is they look to employ other trainers. I don't know what your experience of this has been like, Jade, but in my experience, I never had any stress in my life as a fitness professional until I started bringing in other trainers. So what I like about your model is it's adding profit without adding staff.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. I mean, I think the thing that we all need to look at is people think, there's that old, anyone who's read the book E-Myths understands that, they think, oh, if I start my own business, first they start maybe at one of these big box gyms working for someone else.
Yeah.
Then they start their own business and they think, oh, now I have a business. But you really don't. You still have a job because it requires your time.
Yeah.
And then what they think is, oh, well, I'll get just other trainers. Well, that's still time for money instead of building systems.
Yep.
It's not that you want to hire trainers. It's that you want to build systems to magnify yourself.
Yeah.
Not doing it on that physical basis. And I think that's what you're speaking to. And once you build a system, now you make money as an individual while you sleep without having to have staff or anything else.
Yeah, tremendous. Okay, I love where this conversation's going because I wanted to talk about nutrition and stuff, but it's gone the way, like, I'm asking the questions that I want the answers to. And so I'm going to take it back so the guys that are listening in on the call. I want to know about, I'm really fascinated by your nutritional philosophy because what I like about you guys, what I love about you guys, it's almost we don't discount any method of nutrition and we don't say our way is the only way. So can you tell me how sort of that came about? I've sort of got an idea because you mentioned it before that you tried everything. But can you tell me a little bit more about this philosophy?
Yeah, well, it really came out of, Paul, and I think all the trainers who are listening to this know that, one of the things that trainers have and physicians, we have a tremendous amount of clinical experience.
Yep.
And we realize that really quickly you can work with people and you either get results or you don't. And let's all be honest, a lot of times, especially early on, when you're just doing one-size-fits-all protocols, most people are not getting results. They're leaving. And for a long time, we did what I think a lot of trainers did. We just ignored that and said, they're lazy. They don't want to do the work. It's not us, it's them. And then finally, one day we turned around and said, wait a second. It's not them. It's us. Because what we're doing is we are sort of limiting ourselves by saying we do one type of program. And the truth is, when we looked around, we saw that there were vegetarians and vegans getting great results. We saw that there were people who did the paleo diet who were getting good results. We saw people who were doing intermittent fasting getting great results. And what we said is like, look, isn't it really interesting that we are all different? We are as different on the inside chemically as we are on the outside physically. And so that means that we have to be making a room for this individual nature of people. What we started doing is saying, what if there's a way that we can analyze people and figure out what they're going to do best at? What type of nutrition program are they going to do best, not just due to their individual metabolism, but also their individual psychology and personal preferences. I mean, it doesn't matter if someone will do better on a meat-based diet. If they are a vegetarian and vegan and have issues with eating meat because of moral concerns, we're not going to force that on them. So all those things have to go into this. So what we have done is we've designed sort of the key factors that we know are going to deliver people results, but allow them to be to take those things and fit them into their own lifestyle, their own psychology, their own personal preferences. And what it did, most people might think, people aren't going to get results. On the contrary, what ended up happening is people were more engaged, they stayed with us longer, and they got better results.
Yeah, and I agree because you could have, I always say this to trainers, you could write somebody the best diet and nutrition plan in the world, but if they're not following it, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, no question about it, and that's what we all do, right? I mean, for a long time, I'm sure you did this when you in your younger days as well. I certainly did.
Meat and nuts for breakfast was the big one.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we know that works, but trying to get a lady that's been eating cereal and toast for breakfast for 20 years onto meat and nuts, that is a challenge.
It's a huge challenge, and we have to understand that our biggest complaint, Paul, and my biggest pet peeve is that individuals think, if it works for them, it's going to work for everyone. And then if it works for some of my clients, it's going to work for the rest of my clients. And that just simply is not the way it works. Once you start being inclusive and realizing that everyone has a slightly different approach, you can begin to affect people in a far greater fashion.
Nice. So let me ask you, Jade, how are you guys almost deciding what nutrition plan to put somebody on or what approach to follow, or are they deciding it themselves?
Yeah, it's a great question because it's a little bit of both. We use what we call structured flexibility. So there is structure to our plan, but once they start the plan, they can then start to veer off, and we give them clear rules to follow. So let me give you an example of how this works. What we do is we realize, and this is going to be a little bit overly simplified, but everyone sort of on the line realizes that we all have a little bit of different insulin sensitivity. So I'm just going to talk about carbohydrates for now. Of course, it goes deeper than this, but some of us tolerate carbs well, and some of us tolerate carbohydrates poorly. And that basically happens with people who can, we all know someone who can go eat bagels and donuts and all those things and just work out and stay fit.
That person is not me.
Also that if they even have a bite of pasta or something like that, they gain fat. So what we do, we screen people just with a questionnaire. We have them take a questionnaire,
Mm-hmm.
and we see, among other things, how they tolerate carbohydrates, how insulin sensitive they are.
Yeah.
We give them a plan to follow. So we might say, hey, look, eat as many vegetables as you want, as many low sugar fruits, but we want you to limit your bites of starchy type foods and sweet foods to 10 bites per meal, let's say.
Wow, okay.
Now, we use bites. The reason we use bites, guys, is people don't carry around labels all the time, nor do they always have gram scales to measure and people can think about. So for us, one bite is about a tablespoon, and it's the equivalent of...
Oh, dude, have you seen the size of my mouth?
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, once they get into this, they're not going to be, stuffing their mouth.
Yeah.
Works. But the point of this, and to your point, Paul, interestingly enough, once people get started, then we say, look, we want you to measure three things primarily. We call biofeedback tools, and they are hunger, energy, and cravings. In our mind, your cravings and hunger should be less than 5 on a 1 to 10 scale.
Yeah.
10 high, and energy should be above 6.
Yeah.
If that's the case, these people are going to be able to be adherent on your program.
Wow.
If that is the case, they're not going to be able to be adherent for long. And what we do is, the next thing is we have them measure those three things, and then we have them measure fat loss results. That could be done through bioelectrical impedance, which is probably the worst way.
Yeah.
Skin are our favorite.
Yeah.
But even weight and circumference measurements. Here's how this works. If their hunger and cravings are below 5, their energy levels are high, and they're losing fat, then they have found their metabolic formula.
Nice.
If that is not the case, then they need to tweak things.
Yeah.
Maybe reduce their starch intake by a few bites. Maybe they actually have to raise their starch intake by a few bites.
Wow.
Maybe reduce their fat, maybe raise their fat. So you see how that works. Now they become the detective instead of the dieter.
Nice. I love that shit. Yeah, and again, it's about finding that, and this has still took me a long time to realize that it's about them finding something that fits in with their lifestyle.
Yeah, you know what else is cool about this, Paul? I mean, I'll tell you, I'm sure you can kind of understand this right off the bat, too. Anyone who has a lot of clinical experience in training people. Here's the thing. How many of us have been working with individuals, and it's always about, I didn't lose the weight. How come I'm not getting results, right? And that's all they're focused on. So they're focused on a protocol and an end result. However, when you switch to this model, they become focused on the process.
Wow.
It's the process that they become focused on. They start thinking about things other than, did I just lose weight? Because then they start to know, if I can't sleep, if my energy is low, my hunger and cravings are out of control, it's not a the scale says, I can't sustain this. And so it gets them focusing on something else than just, I got a result or I didn't.
And what I really like about it is that they're also, because I'm big on people learning the why behind the reason they do things, because I think that increases adherence. But what they're also learning here is they're not only learning the science behind it, they're learning about their own response to these things as well. So they're learning about their own body, which is super cool.
Yeah, and you know, what that does is, think about it this way. We all know we've all probably worked with clients long enough to see them go through certain changes, like pregnancy, like menopause. And then what we see is the process stops working, right? If you follow this one-size-fits-all approach, it might work before menopause, but not work after. When you do things from a process perspective, when you teach them this method, they're able to figure things out again. Once they go through menopause, and they're able to figure out their body again when it changes. Because let's face it, there is no such thing as, all one type or metabolic type. Our metabolism changes based on stress, based on lifestyle events, based on lifestyle changes like menopause and pregnancy and things like that. So when you take a process like this, what you're doing is, like you said, you're teaching them to learn their body at particular time, but you're also teaching them to decipher their body and metabolism when it changes, which it will.
And I think you're also going to get a little bit more patience from people as well, because like you said, they're not so focused on that end result.
That's right, you definitely do. They begin to say, hey, this is not something that's going to happen in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 8 weeks. This is something that I have to work at and practice. And that's what we like to talk about. It's all about practice. It's the idea of learning a language, or learning an instrument, a musical instrument, you're never truly a master at it.
Yeah.
It's constant practice, and success comes in the pursuit of mastery, right? So you're never.
Nice. Yeah. I think what I really like about this is because we're saying they're going to be patient, but for me, you'll still get fast results at the start because I actually think that any diet works to start with. It does, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just how maintainable it is. So you'll still get that initial fast result because thinking about business, trying to sell long-term weight loss is always going to be quite difficult. So what we could still do here is sell fast results because I don't care what anyone says, that's what people want. But then we can also sell them the fact that this is going to be something that they can carry on forever.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. So the trainers on the line, that's where the structured part comes in. They are getting a structured diet in the beginning.
Yep.
Most of them
Yep.
are going to see fast results. But then what happens is they start getting, hey, my results have stalled, or gained the way back, or can't maintain this.
Yep.
Then to sell them the flexibility piece of it and teach them this process. So you get the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I love that. So talking about adherence, what are some of the other tools that you guys use to keep people adherent to both the exercise part of it and the nutrition part of it?
The biggest thing, there's several things here, but I think the biggest thing, and I know you're into this as well, is really getting people involved with groups and programs. And so ultimately, social support is huge. Now, obviously, you can do this locally, like we talked about, where you have people exercise together, you have people meet together, and you bring them through, program that way. But also now the internet, places like Facebook especially, forming little groups on Facebook give us the opportunity to do the same thing for people who aren't local.
Absolutely.
So groups are absolutely huge. And the other thing we do is, we really adopt with the new science and the psychology of change. Much of what I do nowadays has to do with the psychology and how people learn. And what you want to do is you really want to teach people that there is sort of a stepwise linear process and teach them one thing at a time. Every 2 weeks, we introduce a new concept. And always know that there's something else coming. I think part of the time you get into trouble is when people feel like, oh, they've heard this before. So a couple things I can say about that. One, the use of groups is huge. Two, having a system and a procedure that people can see that they're engaged with. And three, letting them know that you're sort of like their coach, right? So it's like you are the one guiding them through this. It really creates a pain of disconnect. Without they're going to be floundering. And so what you want to do is you want to think about all the ways that you can support them if they didn't have you, that they would be struggling with. And that's why forming the groups, the coach, having a system which they go through. If we get even more into this, Paul, you even can, some of us who are a little more savvy build software programs that people can engage with, that track devices and all those things that really make a disconnect from working with you too great. And so I always think about it like I want to give them everything so that if they're even thinking about not working with Metabolic Effect, where are they going to go next? And if they do go somewhere next, they're going to see a big difference in the support, thought out program that they had with Metabolic Effect versus someone else.
Nice. Okay. So that's awesome. Next step. I want to know more about this this rest versus work thing that you guys are a massive fan of. I want to know how you got into that and how you became such a fan of it, and then a little bit about the why of it because I'm intrigued by it.
Yeah, well, the first thing is, anybody who's been a bodybuilder in their younger days probably understood the rest pause training. And rest pause training was essentially a way to train where you would basically go for a period of time, get to fatigue, and then relax for a second, usually for a defined period of time, 10 to 20 seconds, and then go again. So that's been around for a long time. And my brother and I used that early on in our bodybuilding days. We used pause training. Then as personal trainers, we kind of had the same model of a lot of people who do personal training, which is go harder, don't stop, keep going. This militant style, push to their limits type of thing. And what we found is that a small group of people absolutely love that. and most people didn't,
Yep.
especially people who were overweight and out of shape to begin with. They didn't like to be pushed to that degree.
I agree 100% with that as well.
Yeah, and then what we did is, interestingly enough, is we started, understanding in medical school. My training was a lot of it had to do with understanding the psychology of change and the science behind psychology. This model, they're called, the SCARF model of human needs. And that has to do with SCARF, SCARF. People want to know that they are, S stands for status, which basically means people want to feel as if they know as much as you do.
Yeah.
They don't like to feel like they're beneath you. So you want to make them seem like they're on the same level. They also like certainty. They want to know that you know what you're talking about as a trainer. And then the most important one is the A, which is autonomy. Humans do not like to lose control. They want to maintain control. The other ones are relatedness and fairness, but I want to focus on that autonomy piece.
Okay.
What we do as trainers when we are pushing people and taking full control of the workout is we completely take their autonomy away from them. They have no control over the workout. They kind of just feel like they're thrown into it and then thrown back out.
Yeah.
Now, when we tell them you can push as hard as you like, rest whenever you like, get back into the workout when you're ready, we are completely giving their autonomy back. We are also giving them more certainty because they know exactly the parameters in the workout. So remember that structured flexibility.
Yeah.
More status because they feel more on our level. They're at just as much control as we are. And so this really came out of understanding the psychology of the human brain and the needs of the
You know what, that last thing you spoke about there, I used to be the guy that was just, let's get these people results, let's work them hard, let's get them to go, let's get the before and after photos. And I must have over 400 before and after photos, which is great. But then recently, since I've moved to Spain, it's like, when you go on vacation and you relax a little bit on your diet. When I moved to Spain, it was basically like going on vacation forever. So I felt the need to hire a trainer. Now, before these training sessions, I was going through all sorts of emotions that I'd never felt before, and it gave me a sort of new apathy for people that are signing up with a personal trainer or are signing up for a training program, because I was almost dreading the training sessions because A, I didn't know what to expect, and B, I was like, oh, well, I hope if I need a rest, he lets me have a rest. So I totally get that, and I think it's huge.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting that you have that experience, and I think we all do to some degree. There's probably been a time where we've done a workout with somebody where we felt that way ourselves.
And I don't think, you know what, Jade, I don't think most personal trainers get this, because I've been in the industry for 13 years, and I'd never even knew this thing or these feelings existed with people. And I think that most personal trainers actually become intimidating to most people that are overweight, because overweight people, in my opinion, are terrified of exercise.
Yeah, and that's the key, isn't it, Paul? Because, I mean, ultimately, if we can just understand that we all love exercise. You love it, I love it, the trainers on the line love it. It's part of what we do. These people despise it. It's like, I put it to, it's analogous to putting your hand on a hot stove.
Yeah.
You're going to do it tentatively. And what we try to do is we try to grab their hand and stick it on the stove.
Yeah.
And what are they going to do? They're going to resist furiously.
Yeah.
So what they do in our workouts, they pace themselves.
Yeah.
However, we teach them, hey, you can put your hand on the hot stove and pull it right off real quick. And if you fast enough, you'll never get burned.
Yeah.
That's the same thing we're doing with rest-based training. We're saying, hey, look, push hard, then rest. Push hard, then rest. It's not interval training because they get to rest as long as they need to. It's not rest-pause training because there's no set amount of time to rest.
So, Jade, how are you guys sort of judging that? If they're choosing when to rest, I'm thinking about it from my point of view, from a trainer's point of view, and I'm thinking, would you not get frustrated with the person that keeps on resting when you know they've got some more? How do you gauge that? How do you know when somebody's done enough?
Yeah, I love that question because actually the way we came up with this concept is we had one client of mine named Claudia back in the day when I was in Seattle, Washington training in school, and she would annoy the hell out of me because what she would do is she would stop and take these long periods of rest, and I would be completely annoyed and constantly trying to let's go. Well, one day I put a heart rate monitor on her, And I found, and of course, heart rate is just, one measure of intensity, but it was really interesting because she had a heart rate monitor on her one day, and I realized she's up in the 80 percentile the entire workout.
Wow.
She's actually harder than most of my other clients at the time. And that made me think, wow, that resting is actually helping her a little bit. But let me tell you how we do this in clinical practice. So what we do is we teach our clients a 1 to 4 scale. 1 is they're at rest.
Yep.
2 means they're working out. They know they're working out, but they can still talk. The weight is light and there's no burning in their muscles.
Yep.
Now, the number 3 is that period of time where they start getting into overdrive. They can no longer talk. Their muscles are starting to burn and the weight is heavy. And 4 is the point where they're at complete failure.
Yep.
So we send this 1 to 4 scale in the beginning, and we tell them if they're a beginner, we want them to get to 3 and then go back to 1. If they're advanced, we want them to go all the way to 4 and then go back to 2.
Yeah.
And what happens is the first few workouts, we're teaching them the scale, and we ask them, where are you 1 to 4? Where are you, on this scale?
Yep.
And it only takes about 3 workouts, and then they know intuitively how hard to push and when to rest. And what you see as a trainer is you're still coaching. So instead of being the trainer and the militant boot camp person, now you're looking at, you can really focus on form. Obviously, if their form goes, they need to rest.
Yep.
You can check with this 1 to 4 scale all the time. And what ends up happening is you end up having a very efficient workout.
Yeah.
Pushing can't, rest until they can. That's the sort of wording we like to use. And here's what's beautiful for people who do boot camps and small group trainings.
Yep.
What you can do is you don't have to do anything different for anyone. You can basically really push and motivate, and everyone just comes in and out of the workout as they see fit.
Yep.
One of the things that people will understand if they've ever seen a metabolic effect workout, a group workout, it looks awful. I mean, it just looks awful because people are all over the place.
Yeah.
Forms all over the place. People are coming in and out of the workout as they go, but it's a process of learning. So it's sort of this structured flexibility. It gets them on the process, and in time they become very, very adept at knowing how hard to push and when to rest.
Yeah.
And the results speak for themselves.
I can imagine it actually making the trainer a better coach as well.
It allows the trainer to stop being the motivator and start becoming the coach. And here's why that's important, because we all think, what do you mean, Jade, stop being the motivator? Well, motivation, there's a difference between motivation and inspiration. To me, motivation is borrowed energy. Inspiration comes from the individual. So if you are going back to that scarf model of the human needs of the human brain, if you take someone's autonomy away, then the only way you're going to get them to do anything is to try to motivate them. However, if you give them their autonomy back, now there's room to be inspired. Now they can generate this motivation from within. Yeah. Exactly what you begin to see happen.
Nice. So, going back to the start then, how do you guys set this up at the start? So say, very first workout, everybody in that session is new. What do you put in the hand?
Yeah, so basically we don't even actually put anything in their hand at that point in time. What we do is we basically start the warm-up.
Yep.
They're standing still. We're just basically, hey, listen up, everybody. And we basically take them through this 1 to 4 scale. We basically say, all right, you guys, this is a rest-based workout. And what that means is, in this workout, we actually want you to rest. We know it sounds funny, but that's what we want. You're going to be doing this on a 1 to 4 scale. We teach them the 1 to 4 scale, and then we basically literally get started. And they learn the process within the workout. And that's the thing that trainers need to understand. Like with anything, they learn this over time. You can't teach it all to them at once. But the best way to experience rest-based training is simply to do it. And so we literally just give them about a 2 to 3 minute, little introductory speech. Then they get started. And then throughout the workout, we're using all kinds of motivational phrases. When someone rests, we congratulate them. That's the way to rest. Get back into the workout when you're ready.
Nice.
Some of our trainers learn psychology techniques that we do that even when no one is resting. We'll actually, that's the way to rest, because it makes people think there is somebody resting. So there's all kinds of psychology techniques we use in our training to get people to push harder, to put on the stove voluntarily.
Nice. What happens then, Jade? I'm just thinking about, I've got my trainer head back on. It takes a while. Normally I've got the business head on. Now I've got the trainer head back on. What happens when people start getting too fit for this? Does that happen?
It actually, that's another great question because it actually does not happen. Because think about it this way: as people get more fit,
Yep.
rest for, and this is really interesting. Once people start getting very fit, you'll find the beginners, what they do is they don't rest as much because
Yeah.
they're under this mindset of I got to keep going, because that's what they think exercise is. Once people get this, they start pushing harder during the work phases and resting more efficiently in the rest phases. And so what you'll see happen is the people in the beginning will pace themselves and not rest as much, and they'll take these big long rests.
Yeah.
But the very fit people where they're resting way more often and more efficiently for less time. And
Wow.
so you have a grandfather or a grandmother doing this workout right next to an elite athlete, and they're each getting the workout that is directly tailored to their own intensity level. The
Wow.
grandfather might rest for longer and more frequently, whereas the elite athletes are going to rest for less time and more frequently as well, or less frequently, depending on their needs. And that also goes to this idea of, we all know we don't come into a workout feeling the same all the time.
Yeah.
And this allows us to, scale our intensity based on how we feel, based on our recovery, those kinds of things. And so it becomes a very efficient way to do things.
Yeah, for sure. Wow, nice, love it. Okay, so let me talk. I'm big on recovery as well, and I think that stress is a big part of people's lives, and I think that a lot of people are sort of chasing the rainbow when it comes to the training too. I don't really believe in overtraining. I believe in under recovery. So what are you guys advising people to do to bring down stress levels and do things like improve sleep? What are some of the strategies that you guys are using?
Yeah, well, if we talk about rest-based training, right, in the we talk about this idea of rest-based living, and essentially what that means.
Sounds good.
Rest-based living basically means, look, I mean, and you have a little bit of this because of where you live in Spain. I mean, the afternoon nap that people in Spain take, we don't do that in the United States. And as a matter of fact, when we wake up in the morning, we go full speed, and we think we're being more efficient.
Yeah.
However, we're not. Research shows that if we take 30-minute breaks here and there, or even 10-minute breaks here and there, if we take a 10-minute nap, if we take 1 or 2 minutes to sort of walk around and reset ourselves, we're far more efficient. So what we teach people to do is we teach people the value of short break periods.
Mm-hmm.
And we teach people is we teach them they have 3 batteries: the physical battery, the mental battery, and the emotional battery. And oftentimes what happens is these batteries can each charge each other. You can use the physical battery to charge the mental and emotional, or you can use the emotional to charge the physical. But what we always do in this high-paced world that we're in is we use the physical battery and the emotional battery to charge the mental battery at work. And what that ends up doing is the stereotypical overweight, stressed out business person.
Yeah.
So first of all, we teach people how to charge these batteries. So how do you do it? Well, one of the ways is exercise, as long as it's not over exercising, short, efficient exercise.
Yep.
And we teach people even 1-minute bursts of activity to do during their workday.
Yeah.
They literally teach them drop down, do a minute of push-ups, and then get back to work. That's immediately going to recharge the physical battery and actually recharge the mental and emotional battery as well. We also teach people about mindfulness meditation. And this isn't airy-fairy, woo-woo type of This is literally just laying back, focusing on something physical. What research shows us is you simply focus on a physical sensation, you immediately will reduce stress. So an example of this would be if you're at work and you're stressed out and you can bring your attention to the way your feet feel in your shoes and your socks feel on your feet, which is something we're normally aware of, that requires you to completely shut down the cognitive side of the brain and get physical, and that recharges your battery.
Nice.
Short periods of naps will recharge your battery.
Yeah.
Visualization will recharge your battery. One of the things I do, by the way, is whenever I'm stressed out, I will briefly, and this takes me 2 to 5 minutes, we teach our clients this as well, but I will briefly shut my eyes and imagine being on a mountain when I was young in North Carolina, which is, in the southern United States, with a dog sitting there overlooking the foliage, the trees, how beautiful that was. I take a couple deep breaths, that calms me down, that takes 2 minutes. This is all research-based stuff. It's just we do not do, and we need.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Have you read a book called what's the book called? The Power of Full Engagement.
Yeah, one of my favorite books.
Tony Schwartz.
Yeah,
he is a badass.
Yeah, it is really an amazing book, and actually, it's one of the things that we use. It covers some of the things I just talked about.
That's where I thought I've heard this. I've used some of this stuff, and I've heard some of it before for sure.
Yeah, it's something I think all the trainers should get. He actually has another book out called The Way We're Working Is Not Working, that came out a little more recently, that really sort of goes a little bit in this.
Yeah.
What we're talking about right now. But to your point, Paul, and what you and I were talking about before, business related.
Yeah.
To me, if trainers will understand this, where training is going, I think, is that we need to become not just physical trainers. We need to become sort of lifestyle coaches.
Yeah.
One of the wild frontiers right now, where there's a ton of money to be made, is in teaching people this rest-based living concept, or whatever you call it. How to manage stress, how to live more full and productive lives, how to manage their workloads.
Yeah, I agree 100%, and I think that the way nutrition's going as well. This is something that I sort of fell out of love with the whole nutrition game. I just got bored of it in this past year, but now I'm starting to fall back in love with it, and I'm starting to learn about brain nutrition, which is fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that could be the future, because everyone talks about, oh, well, there's no point in starting this diet or training program until your brain's right. Well, I'm like, what if you can nourish the brain? And I'm finding that you can. It's amazing.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, Paul. I mean, I think that if trainers look right now, I mean, you and I are seeing this, but if you guys look around, you're going to see a huge amount of new science, new research that really we can grab hold of, get better results for people, and make more money with. And so we can control cravings and hunger through brain nutrition.
Yep.
We can control stress through behavioral changes.
Yeah.
These are all information that our clients need. And, here's the thing, and I'm sure a lot of people on the line are like this too. I am, obviously, I'm all about the money. I want to make a good living doing what I'm doing. But
amen. I love the fact that you're saying that, because in the fitness industry there seems to be an issue with making money. I hate it.
Yeah, I don't know what that's all about either. I mean, here's how I deal with that. I think if we have good quality information, it's our duty to give it. And here's the other thing we need to understand, and I know you guys will get this when I say it. Here's an interesting thing that I've discovered, and Paul, you can give me, I'm interested for your take on this as well. I do think, especially in the world we're in, a monetary, agreement, someone actually paying money, is a huge statement of belief. In other words, giving people free services and doing things like that is great from a marketing perspective, but to get the results they want, they have to have skin in the game. They have to pay.
Absolutely.
Understand, in order for them to get results, that paying money for that is a big piece of that.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that I say this all the time. When I lived in England, I lived in one of the poorest towns in the UK. The group sessions that I was running, for want of a better word, it was a boot camp, but it was very different in that it got results. It was 3 times more expensive than anybody else's in the area. However, what I got was great adherence, because these people were giving me £100 a month, which was a lot for a boot camp back then, and it was like, well, if I'm spending £100 on it, I'm going to eat dog shit on toast if Paul wants me to do this, because I'm not wasting this money. So because there's monetary value attached.
It's got huge value attached, and I know this is getting into the realm of what you do and teach and do so well, but I've seen the same thing. I mean, early on, I was that trainer who's like, oh, I want to, make it cheap for people and make it, give people free services and things like that. But the bottom line is, what I saw is that the truth of the matter is, the more skin in the game someone has, the more likely they are to be successful and take it seriously.
Yeah. Here's another one. This is something that's also in my head at the minute that I'd love your take on. I think that most people who come to us as trainers and us as fitness professionals actually just want to be happy. And they think that by losing weight, they will be happy. Now, I also think that us as trainers so say somebody's standing on Fat Island, an unhappy island, and they want to get a happy island. We sell them the boat that gets them to the island. Does that make sense?
It makes complete
So the diet and the nutrition and the training programs and whatever is the boat. But what if we could just sell them the island? What do you think about that? Like, instead of selling, you lose weight. What about selling, we'll make you feel this way?
I agree 100%, Paul. Actually, I think that we already already have, sort of been talking about that earlier on when we were talking about the process.
Yeah.
Because what psychology research tells us is that one of the major things, people think they're happiest when they achieve something. That's not actually what the research says. People are happiest during the process. They're happiest when engaged in the process.
Uh-huh.
And people like Martin Seligman, who's sort of a pioneer in happiness research, have actually shown that one of the things is engagement is what makes people most happy, not actually achieving the goal, right? And so what we need to do is we need to reframe the argument to, it's not the goal necessarily that you're after, it's the engagement and it's the process. And that's why systems that have a process involved and pay attention to, the social support and paying attention to the things that you're talking about, where you're creating this sort of environment where you are looking after things like the way they live, how they sleep, all these things. Guess what happens? These people, and we've all seen this, but what we see with metabolic effect is these people love that, and they love teaching it to other people.
Yeah, it's almost like a cult, right?
That's right. They become advocates, and it furthers their growth, but they also become teachers to other people. And it's that engagement that I think we're touching on. There's all kinds of ways to begin doing that.
Yeah. I think that for me, the future of selling fitness is almost, like I say, they're selling feelings and selling happiness. Because most people say, I feel fat, or I feel like shit. So we can sell them the feeling of whatever it is, which I've just got that in my head right now. Okay, mate, let's move on. I want to move on to this business stuff. Tell me how metabolic effect exploded from being you training people one-on-one to this fucking monster. How did that happen? How did that shit happen?
Well, I think one of the most important things, and I think you'll get this too, Paul, early on when people start out in business, and I made this mistake pretty early on with metabolic effect, is here I was thinking I had this great thing, and I came up with this great system, and I tried to keep it all to myself, right? I was like, well, I need to make money off of this. I need to be protective over it. And what happened was, because I was doing that, I wasn't getting the word out. And I became frustrated with that. And I grew up in a very, sort of generous household. One of the things that my parents taught me is generosity is the greatest. And what I decided to do is I said, look, I just want this information out there. I'm going to make it cheap. I'm going to get it out for people. I'm going to put it up on the internet so that I don't have to be there physically. And that's how I'm going to get the workout out. And as soon as I did that and put out, content on Facebook and on the blog and videos and things like that, trainers were intrigued, because a lot of this stuff is not still, for those on the line, still this stuff is not really well known.
Yep.
Trainers are hungry for this information, so they took it and ran with it. So I think it really was three things. One, I realized that, look, there's nothing that special about, metabolic effect. It's another workout. People are going to come up with cool workouts all the time.
Yeah.
Not sit there and, hoard it. I had to get it out there.
Yeah.
The number two thing was realizing that I couldn't be everywhere and train every trainer.
Yeah.
So I put all of our training programs online. So all of our training programs now, whether it's the personal training, group workout, all that stuff is in online modules. Our certifications are online. And then the next thing is, and the final thing is hooking up with, Daniel Gonzalez, who's there in Spain with you, and Lincoln Bryden, who's also there in the UK. Find people who are super excited about what metabolic effect we're all about and wanted to teach it, and teaching them to spread the word. Those are the three things that sort of got us out there. So now we're all over the United States. We're in the UK, we're in Spain, we're in Holland, and we're in Moldova, and we're growing. And here's the thing, just so people understand from the business end of things, I'm going to be very sort of upfront with you guys and transparent.
We love that, because that's me. Oh, I'm almost too transparent.
Yeah, don't be too transparent. But effect is making a ton of money off all these trainers.
Yeah.
And here, it's very cheap for us to do this because it's online. So we make money on the front end, and we make a small amount of money from each of our trainers.
Yeah.
But what we did is we thought this out and basically said, all right, we're going to have this army of individuals out there that are essentially marketers for us. So we make more money on the back end.
Yeah.
Into our programs. And I think so you need to kind of, when you're building this business model, you need to say, in the beginning, we could have said, oh, we're going to charge an arm and a leg and a fortune for our training.
Yeah.
What we thought is, let's just get it out there. Let's get it out there as quick as we can, and we'll make the money on the back end through programs. So that's what we did.
Wow. Nice. Super smart. Okay. What would you say? Would you say that was the one thing that you did that really exploded things for you, or would would you say that getting a book written and out there and published was more important?
Yeah, Paul, I'm actually glad because just as I finished up my three things, I realized I neglected to talk about the book.
That's got to be massive, right?
It is, and here's the thing. We wrote that book, and it really just we had a following of probably at the time that book came out on Facebook, we maybe had a following of I don't know 5 to 8,000 individuals on Facebook, and maybe a list of 5,000 people on our email list or something like that. That has gone up by now we have 35,000 or 36,000 fans since the book came out on Facebook. Our email list has gone up 5 times that, 6 times that, 10 times that. And it was all from the book. Now, here, let me talk to you guys about this book just a little bit. To me, where we are now is every single trainer should get a book.
I agree.
Be doing that. Now, we got ours published through a big New York City publisher, HarperCollins, but that's not, which was really good because distribution is huge when it comes to business, and that book out there in a physical form became a huge calling card. However, nowadays, you literally can get your book on Kindle. You can put it in different e-formats. And I would say this, that an e-book, sort of an entry level, most people are giving those away now, but getting a book just in Kindle format immediately sort of elevates your credibility.
I couldn't agree more, and I think that's a very easy thing to do now as well. In fact, I know it is because I'm in the process of doing it. It's super easy, and I wonder if you're going to answer this for me. How did you? Because this is, I think, what holds most trainers back. How do you write a book?
Yeah, I'm glad you're asking that because really, here's the thing: it is easy now with the Kindle formats and things like that. And writing a book is not that hard. Here's how you do it. You guys are all having experiences constantly with trainers. So there's several ways to do this. One very simple way is just simply go back and pick 20 of your client case studies. The struggles, both the good and the bad. Talk about why people failed. Talk about why people succeeded, right? That's a book right there. Just those 20 people. If you have a system, a certain way of doing exercise, thinking about things, then that is another form of a book. Of course, you can combine both of those into a third type of a book.
Yeah.
It's just essentially writing down your own story. If you have a story of you losing weight or doing something, that's another book. So there's lots of, most people think, I got to have like the metabolic effect, all this science and this, fancy workout stuff. No, you don't. There's many different types of books that you can write. And I think the easiest one for most trainers is simply think about the clients that you've worked with, the ones that struggled and why they failed, the ones that struggled and why they succeeded, the ones it was easy for, the ones it was rough for, how you handled it. That is stuff that people want to know.
And you know what, Jade? I'm glad you mentioned the rough stuff because I actually think that is more powerful than all the airy-fairy, every client that I train is brilliant thing. I think the rough stuff and writing emotionally is super important for personal trainers.
I couldn't agree more. And I don't know, Paul, have you read the book Made to Stick by...
I have, yes. Chip Heath?
Everyone should go and read Made to Stick by Chip and Dan Heath because that's what sort of Paul is talking about right now. One of the major ways that you create what they call sticky content, if you write a book, is to tell stories. And here's the thing. If we all went to a movie and saw a movie about a person that, they just had a great life and nothing happened, that would be a boring story. Not many people are going to remember that. But if you see someone get knocked down, go through hell, come back on top and make it, those hero stories, those are the stories that we relate to.
Absolutely.
So those are the kind of stories you want to be looking for to include in your book.
How breaking it down a little bit, like if you were advising somebody to write a book, like where would you start? Like what's the first thing that you would do?
So the first thing I would do if I'm writing a book, your first step is to think about the approach you want to take. And we just talked about some of those. So how am I going to do that? So you decide on that. The next thing you do is you have to decide, how am I going to do this? Am I going to go and try to get a publisher or an agent? And I think this is what you're asking, Paul. So I'm going to go through the big thing first. Let's say you decide, you know what? I want to get this thing published by a big New York City publisher, just like, Jade and Keone did.
Yeah.
The first thing that you need to do is you need to write a book proposal.
Yeah.
Okay? A book proposal is the first thing you need to do. And the book proposal should have 3 parts, and they're all very important. The first part is the hook, meaning what is the thing that is unique and different about this book? And you got to come out with that hook really, really strong. So for Metabolic Effect, it was fat loss does not equal weight loss. A healthy diet does not equal a fat loss diet.
Yeah.
Hormones and calories are 2 different ways of looking at things.
Yeah.
That's our unique hook. You need to come up with your unique hook.
Yep.
Once you have that hook, and it's got to be something that is catchy and grabs people right away.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing you need to do for your to get a publisher or an agent.
Yeah.
The next thing you need to do is come up with the plan. And usually the plan is going to be, I like to break them down into acronyms. So we have another book getting ready to come out. It's a book on, attacking certain specific body parts, like the lower body fat, or the belly. And we came up with an acronym for the program called AIM, A-I-M, which is Assess, Investigate, and then Magnify. Now,
nice.
That's not important, but what it does do is it very simply helps distill down your plan. So what I would say is get your plan, put it into an acronym or a system.
Yeah.
And that system is going to sell. So if you don't have the system, you got to take the time to think about the system.
Yeah.
So now you got the hook, which is the big idea. Now you got your plan, right? That is, the thing that is going to, basically make your plan doable or put it into a system.
Mm-hmm.
And then you create a very good promise, which is what is the person going to achieve with this?
Yeah.
And that's the hard part, right? Because that's where a lot of the gimmicky stuff comes in that all of us are not comfortable with.
Yeah.
This is 10 pounds in 10 days. This is the, lose, 30 pounds in half an hour type of stuff.
Yeah.
You have to come up with a good promise.
Yeah.
Something, your people who want to read this is going to make them pick it up.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing you do, the hook, the promise, and then the plan.
Yeah.
Once you have that, then you begin to search around for agents. It's best to try to get an agent first rather than a publisher. There's several different ways to do this. One way, simple way, is there's a service called bookblaster.com,
okay.
bookblaster.com, that you can go to and actually put together a letter that is sort of what they call a query letter that about your book that you can send out to potential agents, and if they like it, they'll take you on. Now, no agent should ever ask for money from you. Their business is if they make money, or if you make money, they make money.
Yeah.
Want to take money from you, but then they will come back and say, yes, I'll take you on. If that happens, they will then shop your book around to publishers.
Yeah.
But you have to take the time to really plan this out. The hook, the promise, and the plan.
Yeah.
Those are the pieces of the proposal.
Fantastic. Now, I sort of, I don't know what you guys did with this, but when guys are going to be writing books, should they be expecting to make money on the book, or is it more of this is going to get you a lot of credibility and you make money on the back end, so to speak? Because I've heard different opinions on this.
Yeah, you make money on the back end.
The back end, yeah.
If you get a big New York City publisher to buy your book, they will give you an advance.
Yeah.
But if you are smart, you won't just pocket all that money. You'll use it to promote your book. And there's a lot of stuff that, savvy internet marketers are doing nowadays. One of the things that they're doing, and I don't know if you want me to share this, Paul, but one of the things they're doing, and one of the things you'll see Metabolic Effect doing, is that we essentially people are giving their book away online.
Yeah.
Right?
Did you see Brandon Bouchard did it last year?
That's right.
And I got to, where was I? I went to Santa Monica to hang out with Jason Ferrugia, and I went in a bookstore there, and Brendan Bouchard's book was like #1 in Borders or something, or Barnes and Noble, I think it was.
Yep.
It was crazy. And I was like, this dude's been giving it away for free online.
That's right. And what he does is similar to what I was talking about before, is what he does is he gives it away for free online, makes you pay shipping, which is usually about $6.
Yeah.
He's losing $2 on each book.
Yeah.
He flips that money. But then what he does is when you buy that book, he immediately sends you to an upsell, a program. So you get the book for free, and he says, hey, if you like that, maybe you'll like this program. So you get an upsell, maybe a $25 product or something like that.
Yeah.
And he filters you into a training sequence, a video training sequence, which is really a sales sequence. Sales sequence, he has, a sale that moves you into another higher end program.
Yeah.
And that's how he makes money. It's very lucrative, and it gets your book up. So you might say, well, I don't have a major book that was published. Can I do this with Kindle books? You absolutely do this with Kindle books. You can do this with books.
Yeah. Yeah, I was interviewed a guy a few weeks ago, John Goodman, who's got a book on Kindle, and it's called Race to the Top, and it's how to dominate social media feed as a personal trainer. And he was #1 in all marketing books on Amazon by just doing some smart stuff, which was amazing. And that increased John's credibility massively.
It really does. And here's the other thing too for trainers on the line too, Paul. And this goes to me and you sort of being influencers in this area. The other thing to do is really start getting your content out there.
Yeah.
Start being influencers and start trying to build good quality relationships with individuals, and do it in a tasteful way. I mean, people like Paul and I do not like getting. We don't want to hear from someone we don't know. It's like, hey Jade, hey Paul, sell my stuff.
Yeah.
What we want is we want to develop a good organic relationship with you, and then we can sort of evaluate you, and then you have sort of an advocate for you. But that stuff happens over time, and so you can't rush this when it comes to.
And your content, I think I had a conversation with mentoring students yesterday about content. Like, your content's got to be good stuff. You should be and you definitely do this. You give a lot of your best stuff away for free. Like, I'm sure if I went on your blog, that I could find out everything that I ever needed to know about fat loss without buying a single thing.
That's exactly right. And I'm with you on that, Paul, and I'm big on that generosity. And here's the thing that you're alluding to this, and I know exactly what you're saying. Ultimately, people on the line need to understand what Paul's saying, because essentially what he's saying is that by doing that, you are not hurting your business. What you are doing is you are greatly elevating your business. You
Absolutely.
make people fall in love with you, and they will buy. You can teach someone. I can write a blog, and I've done this before. I can write a blog and then have an opt-in for a protocol that they get for free by giving me their email that goes into more detail. Then I can turn around and sell those people the exact same stuff that was in that blog and that was in that protocol and buy it. Not only do they buy it, but they're extremely happy to buy it. You need to understand.
Yeah. And it's amazing. I say this all the time. If somebody could go on my blog, and everyone's like, how have you got such a responsive list? Because I haven't actually got a huge list, but it's extremely responsive, because you can go onto my blog and you could just read every blog post and build a boot camp that brings in 10K a month easily, just by following what's in the blog. And I think you alluded to this earlier, is that the problem with it's not really a problem. It's not in a system. People want a system. People will pay for a system. And I think that's what you just said there, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. I mean, we all think it's information. Well, we all know that people can get information anywhere. So the way information is packaged. So if you look at the stuff that Paul and I do and other people who are doing this and successful, what we do is we really pay a lot of attention to the way we package our material. We're giving a lot of times the same information everyone else is, but we're able to package it better. And like Paul said, because we're so generous, we have a big responsive list. And it's not the size of your list. It's the responsiveness of your list.
Yeah, fantastic. Yes. Okay, my friend, I promised that I was asked this question, and this is going to be the very last one because I know you're busy. Tell me some information, because just a couple of people asked me this yesterday, and we've gone towards the whole business side of thing, which is awesome because most of my readers are this. But I had a couple of people asking me about thyroid issues and underactive thyroids. What are some of your? I mean, obviously it's hard to diagnose somebody on Skype, but what are some of the things that you would advise for somebody with an underactive thyroid?
Yeah, well, the first thing is, let's talk about underactive thyroid a minute, because ultimately, what is that related to? There's several potential causes, but I can tell you the most important cause of underactive thyroid oftentimes is stress, okay?
Yeah.
When I say the word stress, people are going to say, oh, come on, Jade. I mean, stress is such an overused word, and it is, but what I'm talking about is metabolic tension.
Yeah.
These people who are going on extreme diets, these people who are, and it's both extreme diets, both because they're extremely overeating, or extreme diets because they're extremely undereating and doing, these marathon programs and things like that.
Yeah.
But here's what people miss. Here's the tool, the clinical pearl I can give everybody who's listening to this. What happens in metabolism, not all the time, but almost all the time, before the thyroid goes, the adrenal glands go first.
Wow. Okay.
And here's what happens is because doctors have no good tools to evaluate and treat adrenal function, they catch it until the thyroid gland becomes dysfunctional.
Wow.
And that's why they'll put you on Synthroid or Cytomel or Armour Thyroid or any other drug. And what will happen is you'll feel good for a while, and then they have to up the dose again.
Yeah.
Or they have to change the drug. And then you feel good for a while, and then they have to up the dose again. Or change. And you're not losing weight. And what that should tell you is they have missed the real issue. They're trying to treat a Band-Aid, and they're trying to treat you with a Band-Aid, and they're actually treating the wrong wound. They don't see the wound that's really bleeding.
Yeah.
That has to do with adrenal function.
Yeah.
And so what you want to do is get your adrenal glands evaluated by something called an adrenal stress index test.
Yeah.
Okay? And begin to do things that support the adrenal function, which is all the stuff Paul talked to you about, which is rest-based living, learning to relax, learning to get your sleep online, learning to eat better, learning to take short breaks, learning to manage your stress, learning to be happy, all those things. And then there are key supplements that you also can use. But the bottom line is lifestyle stuff has to come first.
Yeah.
The clinical people understand is thyroid dysfunction is almost always related to adrenal dysfunction first. And that's why it's missed in so many people.
Wow. Okay. So what are some of the key supplements that you would personally recommend?
For those people who are dealing with thyroid stuff, the first thing you want to do is clean up your diet.
Yeah.
Okay? Get out all the starch, the high sugar foods, all those things. Go to a high vegetable, high fruit, high protein based diet.
Yeah.
The next thing you want to do is you want to start using supplements and herbs and things like that are going to help the adrenal glands restore themselves.
Yeah.
I'll give you a couple of them. Some of the best. One called rhodiola.
Yeah.
RHODIOLA.
Yeah.
The ginsengs, Panax ginseng, Eleutherococcus. These supplements are wonderful for helping the adrenal glands. There's something that we call adrenal fatigue, which is a ridiculous sort of non-scientific term.
Yeah, I've read that book as well.
But it's the best term we have. Really, if you want to know what it is, it's just simply overtraining syndrome.
Yeah.
If you take athletes, they get into the same state. So this is just modern-day humans, non-athletic humans that are getting into the overtraining syndrome. We just call it adrenal fatigue. That is what the precursor to thyroid dysfunction. Ginsengs, rhodiola, good quality protein supplements, things like that are going to be what helps the athletes keep from overtraining, and they're going to help you from running into those issues. So
nice.
I start with those. Now, there's a host of others, and I'm not a huge, obviously I do a ton with supplements, but I like lifestyle medicine has to come first. This is what I think, Paul, you can back me up, and I think most of the trainers on the line will know this.
Yeah.
You can take all the supplements in the world, but if you don't get the diet and exercise piece right and the sleep and stress piece, they're not going to have much of an effect. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that, again, it, like you said before, even the supplements are just putting a Band-Aid over the other stuff anyway.
They really are. And my whole thing is that the base of the pyramid is all the stuff that we do. And, actually, Paul, I love what you said early on because, you kind of were saying, I've moved, obviously you love exercise and nutrition, but you're saying you're getting back into sort of the lifestyle stuff. And that really is the hidden stuff. We can intervene with training.
It's almost invisible exercise, right? That's what I call it. It's invisible training.
It absolutely is. It's the invisible effects of lifestyle, and you got to get people to understand that. And you can make money off that. A sleep program, a stress management program. These things need to be put in play for these individuals.
Yeah, fantastic. My friend, it has been magnificent talking to you. We've got actually quite a lot covered. We'll have to do another call because I think there's so much more we can talk about. Where can the guys, well, I know where should they go. Where's the best place for the guys that are listening to go and learn some more? Because I saw you've got a new program out that I want to talk to you before I'm up here. But where should the guys go if they want to learn more about Metabolic Effect?
Probably the best place to go is our Facebook page, facebook.com/metabolic effect, or our blog, which is blog/metaboliceffect.com or blog.metaboliceffect.com.
Fantastic. And tell me about your other program, because I noticed this the other day, and I love the name of it. I'm assuming it's yours anyway, the Time Millionaire thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I do a lot of what you do now, Paul, because I'm sure what happened with you, you became very successful. People said, hey, Paul, how are you doing it? You felt obligated to teach it. Well, I'm doing the same thing. So Time Millionaires is all about the idea of how do you take your training services, your nutrition services, and build online member-based sites so that you free your time and elevate your income. It really, from start to finish, what we did at Metabolic Effect to make that happen. It also has how to do a book as well, how to get a book published and that kind of stuff.
Nice. Sounds up. So where can the guys, that's a Facebook page as well, right?
It is. They can go to facebook.com/timemillionaires or timemillionaires.com.
Fantastic. Wow, how did you get that domain name, by the way, dude?
Dude, I don't know how.
That is an awesome domain name, buddy. Shit.
I'm still amazed at how I got that domain name.
Yeah, so that is a lot of potential, but there's a lot of stuff on the back of that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Shit. Okay, my friend. Thank you very much for your time. I'm sure the guys will get a lot from this. We've been talking for ages now. But I shall get this up on my blog ASAP. Thank you very much, buddy.
Well, thank you.